Do I have a bizarre one for you guys today? So, my father decides to ruin my life by cheating on my mom and basically breaking up our household. Well, he's going through a midlife crisis, as I guessed it, but this time, he's chosen no one other than a 21-year-old mistress to go ahead and ruin his life with. And I'm not just going to stand by and let him do it. Oh no, I'm going to stop him. Hey guys, I, 22 female, need some feedback on something crazy that just happened to me. First off, let me give you all some background information. The title is self-explanatory, but there's a lot leading up to this. Basically, my father ruined my family life a couple years ago, and I never quite forgave him for it. Don't get me wrong, my home life was always far from idealistic, but I had a family and a support system, and my dad pretty much threw it all away. He left his own daughter and the woman he'd been married to for decades, my mother, for his mistress, who, by the way, is 21 years old. Yeah, 21. I think she's only interested in my dad for his money because they have nothing in common when it comes to personality. I've had the displeasure of meeting my dad's mistress, and she's dumber than a box of rocks. But my father is so blinded by lust, and he's obviously in the middle of a midlife crisis, so he can't think straight. He just selfishly ruined our life and my mother by, doing this, and she hasn't been the same ever since this all happened. She's so depressed over Dad leaving her. I've had to do all the household chores and run errands. It's been so stressful for me, honestly, because I've been going through college, through all the drama and toxicity. Naturally, this has created a lot of resentment all around, because I never asked for any of this. I don't blame my poor mother for reacting the way she has to. Well, she's been cheated on by the love of her life. Because I feel the same sense of betrayal as my father's daughter. But this whole situation has been so hard for me. I hate that my father got to run away to a new house with a new lover, and I'm the one who's been here left to back home to pick up the pieces for everyone. My father and I barely speak nowadays. In part because his mistress takes up so much of his time, because he's always pampering her and blowing his money on her. The other reason my father and I aren't on speaking terms is that he's still upset at me for outing his infidelity to my mom. Well, what was I supposed to do? I love my mom, and I felt like she needed to know what was going on. There's no way I could just pretend it wasn't happening and tell nobody. That scenario was a whole other can of worms. The signs were there for a long time, but my mother was either oblivious or so loyal to my father that she was willing to just pretend like there wasn't an elephant sitting there right in the room. My father always working late, but I'd sometimes drive by his workplace and his car would not be in the parking lot. I found out he had a second cell phone my mom didn't know about. At first, I didn't even want to entertain the idea that my father was being unfaithful to my mother, but as the signs started to get larger and larger, my suspicions grew. Finally, one day, I happened to be driving home from class at the local community college that I go to. That was the day I got irrefutable proof my father was cheating on Mother. I was driving by the Red Robin, and who else did I see outside on the patio other than my father and his mistress? I parked my car across the street and decided to spy on them for a bit. I was hoping and praying in my head that this young, good-looking woman with my father was probably just a business partner or something related to that. But they were drinking alcohol and touching each other a lot. And then it happened. My father and the mistress both leaned in across the table to kiss each other on the lips. My heart sank and every illusion of my so-called happy suburban family was shattered right there, on the spot. It was like finding out Santa Claus isn't real. Except, in this case, Santa Claus is your father, and it is real. It stung so badly. I took pictures of the incident with my cell phone, and then I raced home to tell my mom. Her reaction was one of the worst things I'd ever seen. I felt horrible that I was the bearer of such bad news, but I felt like it was the right thing to do. The scream and horrible cry she let out after I sat her down and showed her the picture of Dad cheating will be forever ingrained into my memory. Dad showed up around 6 p.m. that evening and acted like he was tired from work. He sounded tired, but I knew it was only because he had been drowning alcoholic beverages with his mistress all afternoon. There was a deafening silence in the house that day I'll never forget. And finally, I was the one who confronted him. I told him I know that he's cheating on Mom. Mom was too mortified to even speak up for herself. She just started sobbing while I showed Father the evidence of his infidelity. At first, he tried to deny everything and gaslight and manipulate us by making us think that we're simply crazy. He said we were misunderstanding things, and that it was normal for this particular coworker of his to kiss him. He fed us lie after lie until he finally broke down and admitted that he had been having an affair with his mistress for nearly a year. My mother and I were completely devastated. And my dad quietly packed his things and went to go live in a hotel room for a bit. My father was at least nice enough to let my mother and I keep the home. But what does he care? He's got enough money and property that it doesn't matter to him. I'm happy we got to keep the house, but now I'm stuck doing everything. I'm talking dishes, chores, shopping, you name it. My mother hasn't been able to keep a job ever since separating from my father because she's too depressed to get out of bed most days. I'm too old to get child support payments from my father, so I'm the only income in the household. And I also have to juggle a full course load of college classes. It's just so overwhelming at the moment. All this resentment has been brewing and stewing inside me for a very long time. Like a fart that's about to blow. Not to mention getting late-night drunk texts from my father admonishing me for, quote, ruining the marriage. I told him he was the one who ruined his own marriage. But he acts like this is all my fault because I simply could not keep my mouth shut of his dirty secret. Well, I didn't think I should keep my mouth shut when it comes to something as serious as this. So, it's been a very stressful time leading up to the event that inspired this post. About 2 months ago, much to the horror of my family and my mother and myself, my father and his mistress announced that they were actually going to get married. I know. My father and mother aren't even, well, together anymore, and I've accepted it, but reading this news did not make me feel a bit better. It hurt a lot knowing that he could so easily move on from his old life like that. I pushed it out of my mind and ignored the news, and I didn't even tell my mother about it at first because I knew it would hurt her a great deal as well. Then came one of the most mind-boggling phone calls I would ever receive. I was sitting around one day at the house and got a phone call from a number I simply did not recognize. If I don't recognize the number, I don't answer the phone, because I have some serious phone anxiety, so I decide to Google the number. Sure enough, it was my mistress. I thought to myself, what the hell could she possibly want? I did not want to talk to the woman who ruined my family, so I ignored the call. About an hour later, she called again. I ignored that call as well. After I ignored the second call from the mistress, I got a call from my father. I knew something was up and I had a bad feeling about answering the phone, but I decided just to answer anyways, just to be polite and civil. That's when I got it. The absolute most craziest news ever. First off, I told my father I did not appreciate him giving out my phone number to his mistress. But he brushed me off because he never cares about my concerns and feelings anyways. He asked me if I would be the bridesmaid at the wedding, and he asked me if I would make the invitations and take care of sending out all the invites if he paid me to do it. I was so thrown off by this question, to be honest with you, that I could not even tell if he was joking or not. I was stunned and speechless for a bit, and my pause must have made him uneasy, because he began explaining himself a little bit more in detail. He said it would mean the world to him if I could be the bridesmaid at his wedding, especially because I hadn't been born yet the first time that he got married. He apologized for breaking up with my mother, but simply reiterated the fact that he was deeply in love with his mistress, and that he wished the best for my mother and me. After reflecting momentarily, and feeling the pressure of being asked such a heavy question on the spot, I reluctantly told my father that yes, I would be a bridesmaid for his wedding. I know guys. Everyone reading this is probably just thinking that I should have said no, but it's so much easier said than done, especially in a situation like this that's so hard to navigate. After all, he's still my father, but as soon as I got off the phone, I was stressed beyond belief. How was my mother going to react to the news? Would she feel like I betrayed her for agreeing to participate in the wedding? Was there any possible way I could get away with not telling my mom what was being planned? After thinking about it for quite some time, I simply realized it would be easier to just get it off my chest and come clean with my mom. I sat her down and gave her the news. She took it a whole lot better than I could have expected, to be honest with you. I guess after being depressed for so long, she wasn't even fazed by the news. She probably expected the wedding anyways. My mother told me she would not judge me for whatever decision I decided to make, and she explained that she understood if I still wanted to be a part of my father's life and wedding. I hugged her and told her I love her, and that I was going to bed. A few hours later, my mom had been drinking, and I had a few drinks myself. Neither of us had been able to go to sleep, so we were bored and just decided to drink more. We got to chit-chatting about the situation at hand, and my mom had a funny idea to suggest. See, she suggested putting wrong dates on all the wedding invitations just to prank my father and his mistress. At first, I laughed along with the joke, and we both had to admit that it would be pretty satisfying to do this. At that moment, I didn't have any intention of actually doing it, but as I thought about it more and more over the coming weeks, I made up my decision. The wedding date was supposed to be April 19th, 4/19. After my dad had sent the blank invitations to me to fill out, along with a nice $100 bill tip. I marked all the dates to be April 20th, a day later, 4/20. Truthfully, when I was doing this, I didn't even feel bad about it. All I could think about was all the pain and anguish my father and his little mistress had caused for me and my mom. So here's why I'm typing this. The day of the wedding came. I decided to skip the attending of the ceremony on the 19th by telling her father I had, gotten sick with the new virus of COVID. He sounded sad and disappointed, but he understood that I needed to stay home so I didn't spread it. Obviously, I was lying. Then I turned off my cell phone, knowing that my phone would be blowing up later when my father and his mistress realized what exactly was happening. I'll admit, this prank of mine was mean-spirited, but it backfired far worse than I ever imagined when I decided to go through with it. Get this. Apparently, when an hour or two had passed and no guest arrived at the wedding, my father's mistress started having a mental breakdown. She started sobbing uncontrollably and slamming her head into a wall. She was so humiliated by the outcome of the wedding, she genuinely seriously believed that all her friends and loved ones had decided to skip her big day. And she ran out of the church and into the street, flailing her arms around and crying. She went into shock and started hyperventilating. I only know this right now because I just got off the phone with my father, who realized after this that the wedding dates had been mixed up. He knew I had done it on purpose. Even though I tried to lie my way out of it, he also informed me that his mistress was having to stay in a mental hospital for a while because she suffered such a dramatic breakdown during it. To make matters worse, all the wedding attendees who were supposed to show up on April 19th actually showed up for another party's wedding on 4/20, and the church is charging my father and his mistress for the mix-up. Guys, how should I deal with this situation? Was I justified in playing this prank on my father? Should I go visit his mistress to tell her it was just a prank? I wasn't trying to hurt anybody. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Today's story is so crazy, I can't even begin to describe what I'm thinking right now. I can't even imagine what's about to happen in these next 5 updates. That's right. Well, so far we ruined about the affair, the ruined marriage, and the wedding absolute disaster that just happened. Guys, if you're new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. Hello, I do stories every single day. If you're into that kind of thing, stop by tomorrow and see what we're doing, and, well, subscribe to the channel. Here is update number 1. Hey everyone, I'm back with an update. Dealing with the fallout from all this has not been easy. Nobody's been cutting me any slack for what I've done. It's like no one can even fathom what would have motivated me to want to get even with my father, who's caused me such pain over the last few years. I'm starting to think that maybe I'm the jerk in this situation. I still haven't heard from the mistress, and I haven't visited her in the institution. My dad's told me she's still having trouble coping with the embarrassment and shock of the wedding ordeal. And he's also barely speaking to me. That's fine by me. I don't want to talk to him, and I haven't wanted to talk to him for a very long time. Especially since he's only contacted me to scream at me for what I did to his stupid wedding. Why should I have to listen to more verbal abuse from him? I'm a grown woman. Maybe this is what he deserved. Has he ever thought of that? You would think me pulling a stunt like this would maybe send a message to his stupid head that tells him he's been a horrible parent to me and a horrible husband to my mom. But he's just so self-absorbed. He's only worried about his wedding, his mistress, and all the money that he spent. It's funny how he has all the money to blow on every whim his mistress has, but he's upset about this. I simply don't care about the cost of the wedding. He's got enough money. In addition to the occasional harassing phone calls from father, I've been getting nasty messages from numerous members of my father's side of the family. Yeah, it's amazing what I've been hearing. My grandparents, my aunt, my uncle, and even my cousins are all against me on the issue. The text messages, calls have been so frequent that I had to block everybody's phone number and block all of their social media profiles as well. I have enough on my plate to deal with in real life without having to put up with the family members who never ask me how I'm doing and don't even act as if they care about me. These are so-called, and I quote, family members, calling up to criticize me. They told me I betrayed my father's trust, and my uncle even said I'm no longer welcome to the family Super Bowl cookout party anymore, which is a bummer. So I've lost even more of my family because the mistress had to come along and ruin my home life. What more can they possibly take from me? I'm just so sick of this drama. Update number 2. Hey guys, I'm back. I appreciate the supportive comments I've been getting, and some of the comments that aren't so supportive. It made some good points I'll have to consider as well. I'm sure you're all wondering what's going on in this situation. I regret to inform you that things just keep getting worse. Not too long ago, my father's mistress was released from the mental institution. From what I've heard, she seems to be doing better. I guess the shock from the embarrassment of the wedding prank has subsided by now. I don't like the mistress at all, and I don't feel too bad for her, but I promise I did not have any intention of sending her to a mental hospital. How was I supposed to know she would react the way that she did? The important thing is she's out now and nobody's hurt, but it's not over yet. The reason I'm giving this update today is that I got a letter in the mail today from a lawyer. Getting a letter in the mail from a lawyer is already scary enough. And, well, I just knew as soon as I saw it that this was going to have something to do with my father and his dirty mistress. Naturally, I was correct. Basically, my father and his mistress are suing me. Can you imagine suing your own daughter who's 22 years old, in college, working a job, and struggling to make ends meet to support your ex-wife, who you cheated on and ruined a decade-long relationship? Yeah, I know, it's crazy to even fathom. I can't believe they're suing me. The letter was notarized by a real lawyer's office, and he's a vicious lawyer, with quite a reputation for winning cases in town. My father and his mistress want me to pay them back for the cost of the wedding, the cost of the invitations, heck, the cost of everything. On top of the gargantuan sum, the mistress specifically is asking for money to cover the weeks that she spent locked up in the mental institute. Sure, you might think the prank I pulled on this woman was cruel or some mean-spirited whatever, but I'm not responsible for her being so upset she ends up having a mental breakdown. How was I supposed to know that? My father and his mistress are also just wanting me to pay for the brand new wedding on top of the cost of the old one. I think I screwed up. What should I do? I can't even afford a lawyer right now, and I'm dealing with all this on top of college and housework too? This is stressing me out, so I'd appreciate any helpful comments from you guys. Update number 3. It's me again. I have another update for everyone reading out there. Things just keep on getting crazier and crazier, I swear, so if you read the last update, you'll know my father and his mistress are suing me over the wedding prank I told you all about. That part hasn't changed, unfortunately. I've been looking for lawyers who are willing to handle the case, but no one will take it. My father's lawyer is such a formidable opponent, and many lawyers have been advising me to just pay up for the wedding and medical expenses. I cannot afford this, so I've been looking for every possible way to get out of this situation once and for good. But let me tell you, here's the juicy part. My father's mistress, who is soon to be his wife, is cheating on him. Dun dun dun! Earlier today, I was driving around town looking for somewhere to get a bite to eat. I was driving by the same Red Robin where I'd caught my father and his mistress cheating at the beginning of this whole mess. Yeah, suddenly, in the corner of my eye, I noticed the mistress sitting at a table on the outside patio, but she's with another man. And it's obviously not my father. She's sitting there drinking and chatting like deja vu with another older gentleman who looked very well off. Nice clothes, nice watch, shiny teeth look fake. He has a handsome man who obviously had a lot of money to his name. This proves the mistress has a type, since my father is also an older man with quite a bit of money, mimicking the same routine that I employed to spy on my father and the mistress years ago. I parked across the street from that same familiar Red Robin, and I surveyed the situation. Sure enough, just as last time I was there, I saw the mistress and the handsome, rich gentleman share a kiss on the lips right there in broad daylight in front of everybody to see. I was able to get photos of the incident, and I fled home right away before the mistress even noticed. When I got home from my little adventure, the first thing I did was text photos to my father. I asked him if this was the woman he truly wanted to spend the rest of his life with, and if she was willing to be unfaithful to him. At first, he only responded that he was not willing to speak one-on-one with me until our lawsuit was settled, and I paid all the charges. He told me his hotshot lawyer was, and I quote, advising him to not even speak at all with his own daughter. I was disgusted by my father's cowardice. So, I just demanded he responds to the evidence of his mistress cheating that he could see for his own eyes. But he accused me of making up the photos with Photoshop. He thought I photoshopped the picture just to get out of the lawsuit. Could you imagine? He's either in denial or, I don't know, he's crazy. So guys, what can I do to convince him that his mistress, well, she's cheating? Update number 4. Well, I'm back with another update. Well, this time I have some good news and some bad news. Don't you like how they say that? The drama just won't stop for me lately, so the last time I checked in, I told everyone how I'd gotten concrete evidence that my father's mistress was cheating on him. He didn't believe me at first. He was in such denial about it, he accused me of faking the photos that I took. My dad might be selfish and crazy, but he's not stupid. After he thought about it, he called me on the phone to apologize to me and tell me I was right. Apparently, the next day after I showed him the pictures of the mistress cheating on him, my father caught her red-handed himself. He was driving by the same old Red Robin and witnessed the exact same thing that I took pictures of just the day before. He told me it was like seeing my photograph come to life. Recreated bit by bit right in front of his eyes. My father was heartbroken, and I'll admit it was a little bittersweet. I didn't enjoy hearing my father be so hurt over this infidelity, but I found it extremely ironic that a cheater would be so hurt by being a victim of cheating himself. I told him point blank that now he knew how I and my mother have felt this entire time, and he admitted that he had selfishly only been thinking about himself for a while. He promised me that he was going to get into therapy and start working on himself, so he could be a better father to me in the long run. He asked to speak to my mother. Much to my surprise, it's been a while since then, and my father and mother have started dating again. I know, crazy world. They aren't going to jump back into things so fast, because they've been through so much drama, they just want to take things slow. I'm disappointed my mother would take back such a cheater like my father, someone who's so quickly betraying her and myself for another woman. But I also understand why she feels alone, and so comfortable being with my father, and why she seems to want to brush the infidelity thing just under the rug and forget like it never happened. What's crazier is ever since my mother and father have been dating again, I've been seeing the mistress turn up everywhere. I've had to file multiple police reports because I've seen her on our property line, standing there just staring at our window, and I'm talking late at night. She's been parking her car and sitting and watching us at night. It's so creepy. It's getting hard to relax, hard to focus. I'm glad my father dropped that stupid lawsuit against me, but honestly, it's more stressful having him back in the house more often. This mistress just simply won't go away, and I'm worried someone's going to get hurt. Update number 5. Final update posted by OP. I'm back. It's been a while this time, but this will probably be my last update. I wanted to touch base again because I know a lot of you are wondering if the situation was ever fully resolved. Well, a lot's happened since then, and I'll try to keep it brief. For a while, the police could not catch the mistress on any harassment charges because she always had an alibi, and was never caught in the act. She was also trespassing in such a way that allowed her plausible deniability, which made her even more dangerous to deal with, but she finally screwed up. The other day was the 1-year anniversary of the planned April 19th wedding that I ruined last year with my invitation prank. I'd been nervous leading up to the day because I just had a gut feeling that the mistress was going to pull a stunt, and that's the day she was going to do it. And much like all my other gut feelings, you betcha, I was right. I was getting ready to go to my college class when suddenly I heard a loud bang right there on my door, and then another one, and then the door broke. My father's mistress was at the door with a baseball bat in her hands. She had a crazed look in her eye like a rabid animal released from a cage. I was the only person in the house at the time, so I was scared. I decided to film her in the act so I could have irrefutable evidence to show the police. She finally broke the door down with the baseball bat, and I ran like a mad person out the back door. I hid in my backyard and called the police and told them what was happening. The police quickly showed up at my house and subdued the mistress and arrested her. I called my parents and they came home and comforted me. The mistress had done a lot of damage to the house, but she's now in jail and nobody was hurt. So, that was good. Apparently, the mistress had suffered another breakdown due to the stress of being the 1-year anniversary of the wedding, and the woman simply snapped and had to get revenge on my father. Basically, the mistress will be going away for a long time. I also want to let everybody know that I've picked out a new apartment and will be moving an hour away from my parents. I love them, but I can't handle their drama anymore. Every silly thing that's happened over the past few years is a direct result of me living with my mother and father. It's time for me to get out on my own. I'm looking forward to finally having some peace and independence. A lot of you in the comments have mentioned that my parents sound like toxic children. And as much as I love them, you guys are right. Thank you all for reading my story, letting me vent about this crazy stuff. I'm excited to start my own life soon, and I couldn't have done it without the help from you guys. Thank you. All I can say is thank goodness that the mistress was arrested at the end of this story. I mean, I hope that she got the mental help that she needed, but breaking into somebody's house with a bat, threatening to hurt them simply because, well, she didn't have the best day at her wedding, is so absurd. I mean, she really put people in danger. Guys, I would like to know what you would do about this story if, well, you first found out your father was cheating not only with just a regular person he was cheating with, but someone significantly younger. I'm talking 21 years of age, going ahead and ruining the household and whatnot. How would you deal with that? Drop your comments down below. Let's talk about that, guys. If you're new to the channel, hello, my name's Mr. Redito. I animate stories and narrate them every single day. If that sounds like something you're into, subscribe to my channel and also check out my other channels directly below in the description below. You can find my other channels there with all the links, and just know I post every single day. Guys, have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.